Sorry, ma'am, it's not working. The security man barely looked up as he pushed my ID card back across the counter. The little screen at the turnstile flashed red again. Around me, people hurried through with their bags and laptops, the beeps of clearance filling the air, but mine stayed silent. I tried again. Same red light, same silence. For a moment, I just stood there, holding my coffee in one hand, my folder in the other. Something about the way he avoided my eyes made my stomach twist. Try it one more time, I said quietly. He shook his head. Your access has been deactivated. That word, deactivated. My chest went cold. After almost 10 years of giving my life to this company, long nights, early mornings, even weekends, suddenly I was frozen out like I never mattered at all. But deep down, I knew this wasn't a mistake. Someone wanted me out. Someone thought I was finished. They had no idea what they had just started. The elevator ride felt longer than usual that morning. I stood among strangers in crisp suits, their perfumes sharp, their laughter loud. I clutched my folder tighter. When the doors slid open on my floor, no one looked at me. No greetings, no familiar nods. Just silence, like I wasn't even there. My desk was still in its place, but something was off. The plant I kept, wilting. The family photo that always sat upright, turned face down. I reached out, lifted it, and saw a fine layer of dust. Like no one had touched this space in weeks. I logged into my computer. Or tried to. My password, the one I'd used for years, blinked back, access denied. I felt the first sting of panic. A company doesn't just erase someone overnight. Not without reason, not without a plan, and yet, no emails. No messages, no explanation, just silence. By noon, I noticed people filing into the big glass conference room at the end of the hall. Executives, department heads, even interns. Everyone but me. I walked closer, folder in hand. Through the glass, I could see the slides flashing on the screen. Strategic transition. New era. My throat tightened. That was my project. The one I'd built, the one I'd defended late at night with nothing but black coffee and sheer determination. Yet here they were, dissecting it without me, as though I had never existed. I pressed my hand against the cool glass for a second before stepping back. No invitation, no seat at the table, no acknowledgement at all, but here's the thing about silence, it's never empty. It's hiding something, and I was going to find out what. Later that afternoon, I returned to my desk and reached for the drawer where I kept everything, drafts, notes, backup copies. But the lock had been changed. I tugged harder. Nothing. A thin strip of masking tape sealed across the top read, property of management. My stomach dropped. Property of management? Those were my papers, my work, my life for the past 9 years. I sat back slowly, pulse racing. Someone had gone through my things, taken what they wanted, and sealed away the rest. That's when I realized, this wasn't incompetence. This wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate, and if they were trying this hard to erase me, it meant one thing. I still had something they needed. Something they couldn't touch without me. That night, I tried to log into my company email from home. Sometimes the system worked off-site, but when I typed in my address, the error message flashed. This account does not exist. Not disabled, not suspended, does not exist, as if I had never been there. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the glow of the screen. I had spent nearly a decade building something that kept that company afloat, and they had erased me with one keystroke. But here's the part they didn't know. I had built more than spreadsheets and contracts. I had built safety nets. Quiet, overlooked details hidden in plain sight. Threads that tied everything back to me. And soon, they'd realize just how badly they had underestimated me. Later that week, I saw him. The new man. Slick smile, expensive suit, the kind of handshake meant to dominate rather than greet. He spoke in buzzwords, streamline, optimize, cut the fat. People clapped, dazzled by his charm. But as I watched him, I felt my skin crawl. Because behind that smooth voice, I recognized the truth. He wasn't here to build. He was here to sell. To gut the company of everything valuable, including the work I had poured my life into. And the worst part? No one else seemed to notice. I went back one evening, long after most had left. My old ID didn't work, but the night guard knew me and let me in. I slipped into my office. My drawer was still sealed, but the top of my desk looked wrong. Too clean. That's when I noticed, the folder I always kept under the monitor was gone. Inside that folder had been notes, drafts, and outlines of a contract only I had fully mapped. If they had it, they thought they owned the heart of the project. But they were wrong. Because what I had kept, the real key, was never in that folder at all. The news broke the next day. Company announces sale of legacy project. $80 million deal. My phone buzzed with notifications, former colleagues tagging me, friends sending links. They thought I'd be proud. They thought I'd be part of it. But reading those words, I felt something else, fury. Because that legacy project was mine. And now, I knew exactly what they were trying to do. They were selling everything I had built. Without me. That night, I pulled out a battered notebook from the back of my closet. My handwriting filled every page, scrawled late at night, line after line of notes no one else cared to read. And there it was, the detail that changed everything. A single clause, one line buried deep inside the agreements, overlooked by every fast-talking executive. It didn't belong to them. Not entirely. They needed me, and they didn't even know it yet. I sent a short email. Just one line. Please confirm you've addressed the assignment clause before proceeding with the sale. No explanation, no threats, just a test. The reply came hours later, already signed. Cold, final. I closed my laptop slowly. That single sentence told me everything. They had walked straight into a trap of their own making. And I was holding the map. The following week, I wasn't invited to the town hall. Of course not, but I streamed it online. I watched as the new face strutted on stage, talking about a bold new chapter, and velocity over legacy. He smiled as he called my work dead weight. I didn't flinch. I just wrote the words down. Date, time, his exact sentence. Because sometimes, the best weapon isn't anger. It's record keeping. A message popped up in my LinkedIn inbox. A young associate from a law firm I'd never heard of. Hi, I'm working on a diligence matter involving your old project. Your name came up in the documentation. Could we schedule a call? My pulse quickened. They had finally found it, the thread I had woven years ago. And now, they couldn't move forward without me. We spoke over video. He looked tired, cautious, but sharp. There's an unusual clause, he said, flipping through notes. Your name appears as custodian on the core assets. That can't be right, can it? I leaned closer to the screen. Calm, steady. It's right, I said. He froze. His pen hovered midair. You mean? Yes, I replied. Without me, this sale is invalid. And just like that, the first domino fell. The message arrived quietly, slipped into my inbox without a signature. Just a time, a place, 10 in the morning, a corner coffee shop wedged between a dry cleaner and a nail salon. I arrived early. The smell of burnt espresso hung in the air, chipped mugs stacked behind the counter. Nothing about it suggested this was where an $80 million deal would hinge on a single conversation. He came in sharp and deliberate, his suit crisp, eyes calculating. No introductions, no wasted words. He opened a folder, pages lined with notes, and spoke. We've identified something unusual, a clause. Your name is listed. If that's true, nothing moves forward without you. I stirred my coffee slowly, letting the silence stretch before answering. It's true. His pen froze above the page. Will you sign? No. Then name your price. I shook my head. This isn't about money. The deal is invalid. That's all there is. The confidence slipped from his face. He closed the folder carefully, stood, and nodded once. We'll be in touch. He left the coffee half full on the table. I sipped mine until it was cold. The lawyer slid a paper across the glossy table. My name sat beneath the line, unshakable in black ink. The man at the head of the table forced a laugh. Too loud, too brittle. That's boilerplate, old language. She's just a footnote. Silence. Every eye turned to me. I didn't move quickly. Didn't need to. I raised my hand just enough, my voice even, cutting through the quiet. I am the assignee, and I do not approve. The words landed like stone. Heavy, irrefutable. The room froze. One of the buyer's analysts fumbled for a water bottle, hand trembling. Another scribbled frantic notes. He tried again, his voice cracking around the edges. She doesn't work here anymore. She has no authority. But the buyer's lawyer didn't blink. It's not tied to employment. It's binding. Irrevocable. He turned toward me, jaw tight, eyes wild. But I just sat back in my chair, steady. The truth was no longer buried in footnotes. It was alive, standing in the middle of their grand performance. And suddenly, the entire show began to unravel. By midday, the polished room that had hummed with energy was silent. The buyers left in black cars, faces pale, briefcases clutched tight. No handshakes, no promises, just absence. Upstairs, the board scrambled into closed-door meetings. Words like breach and negligence hissed through the corridors. His name wasn't spoken aloud, but everyone knew who carried the blame. He had strutted for weeks, calling the work dead weight, discarding the people who had built the foundation he stood on. And now he stood alone, staring at a paper that refused to bend to his will. The $80 million deal was gone. I walked away from the glass tower quietly, no need for celebration. No gloating, just steady steps into the crisp air outside. I had not needed anger. I had not needed noise. Only patience. And in that silence, the weight shifted. Everything he had tried to erase had become the very thing that ended him. The morning after the collapse, the office tower felt like a mausoleum. The usual hum of chatter and hurried footsteps had been replaced with an eerie hush. Phones rang unanswered, doors closed quietly, as though even sound itself might draw too much attention. I didn't need to be inside to know the truth. Silence is its own kind of broadcast in places like that. It means fear. It means someone has been cut open, and everyone else is holding their breath, waiting to see if the blood will splash on them too. Whispers leaked out into the city by lunch hour. Entire floors had been told to stand by. A board meeting had stretched late into the night. Legal was drowning. The deal, their deal, wasn't just delayed. It was gone. And him? The man who once strutted down halls as if the carpet itself rolled out to serve him. He was gone too. No farewell, no announcement, just absence, the kind that tells you he hadn't walked out by choice. That evening, the company released one of those polished statements. Leadership transition as part of our evolving vision. But anyone who could read between lines knew exactly what it meant. Once, his name was everywhere, on memos, in town halls, on every second PowerPoint slide. His voice carried like thunder, sweeping through meetings as though volume alone could replace substance. Now, it was erased. I opened the company's internal portal one last time. The leadership page had been updated. His photo, gone. His name, absent. No mention of his contributions. No send-off. No thank you note. Not even a line of hollow gratitude for his vision. That was how quickly it happened. One day, he was untouchable. The next, he was nothing more than an empty chair in a boardroom no one wanted to sit in. The irony struck me deep. He had called me a footnote, dismissed me like I was nothing more than a nuisance on the edge of a page. Yet in the end, he was the one who had been erased, deleted so thoroughly it was as though he had never existed. I closed the laptop softly, my hand lingering on the lid. Not out of pity, not out of gloating, out of acknowledgement. His downfall wasn't my doing. He had built it himself, brick by careless brick. I had only reminded the world where the cracks already were. It had been a week since the collapse when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but the area code tugged at recognition, Chicago. Margaret Halpern? The voice was deliberate, measured, calm in a way that made me sit straighter in my chair. Yes, this is Colin, counsel for Crescent Ridge Capital. The same man who had once studied me across a chipped coffee shop table, trying to decide if I was bluffing. We've completed our review of the agreements, he continued. Every line, every footnote, every signature. You were right about all of it. I stayed silent, letting him fill the air. We would like to discuss a role with you. Consulting, remote, full oversight. You'd retain authority over the assignment clauses. Nothing moves without you. For years, I had been invisible, dismissed, overlooked. And now, the same voices that once ignored me were asking for mine. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was something sharper, quieter. The kind of satisfaction that doesn't roar, but hums low, steady, and undeniable. The power they had tried to erase had become the very foundation of their future. He laid them out with clinical precision. A monthly retainer, larger than any salary I had ever earned. Bonuses tied to performance, flexible hours, international opportunities. But beneath the numbers, one line mattered most. I would remain custodian. My signature would still decide everything. This isn't temporary, he said. Your authority is permanent. Without you, nothing proceeds. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the faint reflection of myself in the darkened laptop screen. For years, I had carried the weight of being invisible, watching others take credit while my work anchored them all. Now, invisibility had turned into leverage. I let the silence hang, long enough that I could hear the faint ticking of the clock in my kitchen. Finally, I spoke. Send the paperwork. He exhaled, relief softening his voice. You'll have it tonight. When I ended the call, I sat in the quiet of my home, the hum of the refrigerator in the background. For the first time in months, I wasn't dreading tomorrow. The tables hadn't just turned. They had spun completely. The document arrived by midnight. I read every word, slowly, Carefully. Unlike the old contracts buried in footnotes and cross-references, this one spoke plainly. There was no hiding who held authority now. It was me. My name, printed bold, etched into permanence. I thought about all the nights I had stayed late under fluorescent lights, unnoticed while others took bows. About the meetings where my voice was drowned out, the credit handed to louder men with shinier shoes. About the morning my ID stopped working, the guard's apologetic shrug as if I had already been forgotten. Now, with a single stroke of a pen, everything shifted. I signed. Calm, steady, deliberate. And it wasn't revenge I felt. Not triumph. It was clarity. They had tried to erase me, and in doing so, they had written me into permanence. Later that evening, I opened my old email archive. Buried deep was his last message to me, the one who had called me irrelevant, who had smiled as my access vanished. I clicked, reply, 5 words, still just a footnote? I hit send, knowing it would bounce back. His account was gone, just like him. But the act wasn't for him. It was for me, because I was no longer a footnote. I was the signature, the line no one could cross. The anchor that made everything else possible. And while his name had been erased from every page, mine remained, quiet, steady, unshakable. In the end, that was enough. They thought they could erase me. They thought silence and locked doors would make me disappear. But the truth has a way of surviving, even when people try to bury it. My name didn't just stay, it became the only one that mattered. So I'll leave you with this question. What would you do if the very people who tried to destroy you ended up depending on you to survive? Thank you for watching Naya Stories.